Hey everyone, welcome to another video. We're actually taking another look at 9.19 because there are 17 more changes. So that is 26 total now in the patch ready for Worlds. Normally I wouldn't do another one. I would just wait until it drops and do a recap then. But I think honestly it's such a different patch now to what they first put out and what we first thought that we kind of have to take another look at it. There are a lot of changes, so we are just going to jump straight into this and I'm sure somebody will recap it down below eventually. But the first one is a change to Riven. So they have scrapped the old changes. The new ones are Q cooldown increased to 13 seconds from 12. These are actually a buff, by the way, because her E cooldown now has been lowered to 12 to 8 from 14 to 10. So if you remember back in 9.10 when she was pretty overpowered, they changed these around and nerfed them, and it's a partial revert from that. It's still not going to be the same, but it's closer to what that was now with a shorter E cooldown, and I think this is something that a lot of River mains will be really happy about. The buffs to the damage on her ultimate and to a W have been removed. They've swapped them out for this instead, so pretty good changes. Her E is a lot of a setup, a lot of a protection as well, so these should actually be pretty good buffs. They might get overshadowed a little bit though because Fuhrer's getting some really juicy ones. So her Q can now hit towers and wards, and the second part of her E can crit towers. Even though this isn't changing anything about how she lanes or like how she's going to fight somebody, it massively increased her tower pushing potential and her split push. Fuhrer is an amazing late game champion, and this is just adding like another kind of facet to her kit that is actually so strong. And by the way, if you aren't sure, her E is 160 to 200% guaranteed crit on a tower now. I already think she took towers relatively quickly with Trinity 4 Sheen damage and how much attack speed she has anyway, but now obviously that is going to be a lot better. Also in terms of wards and stuff as well, just a cheeky little extra, I think you can probably auto attack Q into auto attack to remove one instantly. Another cool change that, well, I think is cool, probably not to a lot of you, but as an AD carry main, so Ashe's Q is now going to reset her auto attack. That's actually pretty big, but also her passive slow has been increased a little bit by 5% at the start of the game. I think this is so good. Like, I wish this was a thing already. You now have much better damage over time with the blade build because you can ramp it up a bit quicker. You should be better 1v1 especially, which is not Ashe's like strong suit or anything. I know it's only a reset, but I think it's going to make a big difference to how much damage she can get out and how quickly she can do it. I actually reckon she'll be top tier. I think she's already pretty good. Her range advantage and slow in lane is really strong, firing out ults and everything. Two really good builds at the moment, so this should bring her like up to that top level. The last one I really want to like kind of highlight before we jump into some of our nerfs is a buff to Blitzcrank. So his Q hook range has been increased to 1,150 from 1,050, so up by 100. His ultimate passive also now has 3 charges from 2, but just to be honest, I actually have no idea what this charge thing is because I've read the tooltip and I can't find any charges. If you know what that is, let us know down below. But honestly, the hook range thing, I don't think this was actually needed. The champion is designed for solo queue. It's sometimes whipped out in pro play. It's in a pretty decent spot, I think, and it's relatively balanced. We had this update before where we had like the shield shred on his ultimate, so that's there, and now you're gonna have more range on the hook, so you're more likely to get hooks, and normally hooks result in kills. So let's move into some of our nerfs. And remember, this is a Worlds patch, right? This is kind of aimed at pro play more than anything else, so some of these might not make too much sense. The first one like that is one to Karma. So her Q AP ratio has been lowered to 40% down from 60%. Losing 20% of an AP ratio is actually pretty huge. This is normally something that can really kill a champion, but it won't affect support that much, honestly. It is going to be a little bit because you do build AP on some items like Sensor anyway, but it isn't going to be huge. It is more aimed at solo lane, which we've seen a lot in pro play. Normally they'll play top lane, I think, and they kind of rush a Luden's first item, and this is really going after that, so they don't do as much damage. We do have a couple of jungle nerfs, but they aren't two really popular solo queue ones. So the first one is to Gragas. His W cooldown increases 6 seconds from 5, and the damage on that has been lowered to 7% from 8%. It will slow down his clear speed a little bit, but it's also got the damage reduction tied into it. So in theory, if he doesn't have that, he's a little bit easier to kill. When he does use it, he obviously won't be doing as much burst damage either. So these are just general nerfs to not let him be as strong as he is with the Predator build that can kind of dive in and absolutely ruin an AD carry's life. Maybe not life, maybe game, I guess. But another jungler is Sejuani. So a passive damage lowered to 10% from 10 to 20%. Right now, the passive scales with levels at 1, 7, and 14, by the way. So the damage is going to be the same as it is to start the game. This damage is from the part where enemies stunned by Sejuani are frozen, and the next auto attack deals 10% of their maximum health and kind of breaks it. It is kind of a massive reduction in damage, really, for Sejuani. I know she's a tank, but she is kind of removing her like dual potential anyway, considering it's being used more than once in a team fight, and it's literally half as good, plus it's max health. When someone has like 2,000 or 3,000 health later into the game and you're trying to kill them and trying to burst them down, this is going to be a huge chunk of damage that you're actually going to miss. There is another jungler being changed. So Silas is having his base armor lowered and armor per level lowered, but it's basically the same as before, except there's no passive adjustment at the moment. So that might or might not be in there, but apparently not. He is still going to suffer a lot in the jungle, and it's going to slow down his clear speed quite a lot. Well, it won't slow it down damage wise, but it's going to have to base more because he'll be taking more damage, so he can't gank as much, and that is the idea. Our last nerf today is for Pantheon. So his base magic resist has been lowered by about 3, and his W empowered damage has been changed to 135 to 165% AD, scaling with your level from 150%. So the magic resist part is really aimed at mid lane. If you didn't know, he's being used there a bit more, especially at higher ranks, and this will make mages do more damage to him, so he's just not as good mid. The W part is the auto attack that strikes 3 times, so you trade 15% damage early for 15% damage later, which isn't necessarily the worst thing. The worst part about it is that Pantheon is designed to win lane phase, and if this stops him doing that or stops him doing it as easily, then he's going to be worse overall because he doesn't really scale, and you don't pick him to scale either. Let's move on to some of our buffs, and we have some pretty cool ones here as well. We're going to start with one of the coolest that I think is here, which is to Orna. So the passive level for the masterwork items has been lowered to 12 from 13. So this is a thing where you can upgrade others' items and you can upgrade your own as well, and this is a really good buff for Orna. We've seen a bit of him recently anyway, but late game this guy gives so much gold, it is insane. It could really help you win the game. It can help you turn it around as well because of the influx of gold and damage, and now it all starts 1 level earlier. Part of the reason this is so good is because it helps him personally get stronger sooner, and it also helps his team, but it can help like everybody. So if you are kind of struggling and you are a bit behind, it will snowball you even faster. Another pretty cool change that is not something we normally see is to reksai. So her unbarrowed Q works on towers now, and base armor up to 36 from 33. The unbarrowed Q is the next 3 basic attacks deal bonus physical damage. It is 60 to 120, but it uses 150% of your AD for all 3 as well. The reason this is so good and a really good buff is because you heavy gank, right? But you get outscaled, and that is the issue with reksai. With this buff now though, after good ganks, you can get more plates and you can get a bigger lead, and that is why it is so good. The next buff is to Zac. It isn't as cool, unfortunately, but his ultimate has a new passive, so blobs now restore an additional 1 to 3% health depending on the rank, and you can also now ping your passive cooldown. When you're picking up a lot of blobs in a team fight, and when you have a lot of health as well, this could actually be quite a lot that you're going to get extra. Being able to ping a passive is nice, so you can keep track and you can kind of know when to make a play, but it's just supposed to keep him alive more in team fights, at least the ultimate part. Depending on what runes you take, this can actually be more, and obviously it's more as well with Spirit Visage if you grab that, which you probably will. It just makes him more than a long range engage, and he's going to scale just a little bit better and be a better frontline. Next up, we're going to look at a buff for Twisted Fate. So his E attack speed increased to 20 to 40% from 10 to 30%, and damage has been increased by 10 as well. I'm actually really surprised to see this because it's kind of geared towards AD Twisted Fate, which is popular in pro play anyway, and it's pretty strong. Plus that 10% is a lot. Like the Zeal is 15%, so you get almost most of that extra. The biggest part is it's double the attack speed to start now. You max it last normally in a build, you max your Q first and W then E, so you're getting twice as much for most of the game without doing anything at all. Obviously, this helps normal Twisted Fate as well. It's not just for AD. If you play the AP version, mid lane or whatever in solo queue, it is going to be a buff for you as well, but the AD version is where you're going to feel the benefit a bit more. Another mid laner getting buffed this patch is Cassio. So her E and power damage, Twin Fangs, increased to 20 to 100 from 10 to 90. So it is only 10 damage, but this is really dangerous in my opinion because Cassio is getting more popular every day and is seriously strong at like 2+ items. The empowered damage is when she uses it on somebody who is poisoned, so the damage when you actually fight somebody basically, and you use it a lot on the same target, right? So it is way more than 10 damage. I'd actually expect to see a lot of Cassio in 9.19 if these do make it into the patch. It's kind of like 2 ways, so it's like a bigger buff than it looks for a champion that I already think is pretty strong. I guess that kind of leads on to another one that isn't too strong. So Annie's new update actually made her a bit worse for now. So these are some kind of like extra little buffs around the new mechanic. Her E move speed has been increased to 30 to 60% based on level from 25 to 50%. And the cooldown is now 14 to 10 scaling from 15 at all ranks. In teamfights, you can probably zoom around like every 7 seconds-ish with some cooldown reduction, which is pretty good considering it lasts 3 seconds. And last buff that we haven't touched on before is going to be one to Aatrox. So his Q damage to minions has been changed to 40 to 70% based on level from 40% at all ranks. He was absolutely nerfed into the ground at last patch, so this time they're making his wave clear better, but only later into the game. It starts the same, it gets a little bit better as the lane phase goes on, which is nice, but it's still not as good as before. It probably won't make a huge difference to be honest, but he will be able to farm, clear, and push harder in 9.19, even though I think actually the healing is probably the bigger issue from the last patch. Last buff that we're going to look at is to Xin Zhao. So we looked at this already. There are slight changes from what we had before. And by slight, I mean they took away the good parts about it and left the kind of okay parts. The passive heal is still there, which is nice, but the slow buffs were taken away. And now it's just a bit more damage on your Q, and that's pretty much it. It's still buff. It's still going to be a nice change. Or we might see a little bit more Xin, but it's nothing crazy and nowhere near as big as it was before. If you want a full list of changes, I'm going to throw something up on screen now. You probably have to pause the video, I guess, but these are all the ones we have so far that have been shared by Riot. There are changes that we haven't talked about in this video to Vayne, Orianna, Yuumi, Veigar, Graves, Heimerdinger, Mordekaiser, Sion, and Tahm Kench that were the same as the last video, so I'm not going to repeat myself and go over them and make this really long. Let me know what you think of 9.19. Obviously, pause and just read it if you want to, but thank you for watching until the very end. I'll probably be streaming right now if you want to come and tune in, but that is going to be all for now, so I will leave you with the robots.